Picture this. A young boy stands at the boundary between life and death. Not once, not twice, but 3 separate times. Each time his heart ceases to beat, and yet, against all odds, he returns. But when he opens his eyes, he doesn't just bring back life. He brings a message, a profound, life-altering revelation that challenges everything we know about existence. A message so powerful, it has the potential to reshape our understanding of what lies beyond this world. This is the story of Landon Whitley, a child who ventured into the unknown and returned with answers that can only come from a realm beyond our comprehension. If you've ever wondered about the afterlife, or sought to understand the mysteries that follow our final breath, this story might hold the keys you've been searching for. So sit back, clear your mind, and prepare yourself for a journey that defies explanation, challenges doubt, and immerses you in the heart of a timeless mystery. The year was 1997. It was a bright Sunday morning, and the Whitley family, like many others, had a cherished routine. Church in the morning, lunch together, and then a peaceful afternoon at home. Julie and Andy Whitley were deeply devoted parents, and their son, Landon, was the light of their lives. On this particular day, the family piled into their car after service, content and looking forward to the rest of the day. The roads were familiar. The conversation was light. The sunlight filtered through the car windows, casting a warm glow that matched the peace of the moment. In the back seat, Landon stared out at the passing scenery, unaware that life as he knew it was about to be turned upside down. Out of nowhere, chaos erupted. An ambulance rushing to an emergency collided with their car at a high-speed intersection. The impact was catastrophic. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and the force sent the Whitley's vehicle spinning wildly. When the dust settled, the scene was one of devastation. Andy was pronounced dead at the scene. Julie, trapped in the mangled wreckage, was badly injured, but alive. And in the back seat, Landon lay motionless. He wasn't breathing. First responders worked frantically to save Landon. He was rushed to the hospital, but despite their efforts, his tiny heart stopped. The doctors declared him clinically dead. But they didn't give up. They pushed harder, fighting to pull him back from the brink, and miraculously, they succeeded. For a moment, hope flickered, and then it happened again. Landon's heart stopped. For the second time, he was declared dead, and for the second time, the medical team refused to let go. Somehow, they revived him. A third time, his body gave up. A third time, the doctors fought to bring him back. Against every medical prediction, they succeeded once more. By now, Landon's story had become something of a miracle among the hospital staff. 3 times he had crossed the line between life and death. 3 times he had returned. Meanwhile, Julie was reeling. The news of her husband's death hit her like a physical blow, but there was no time to grieve. Her heart and soul were focused on Landon, her only surviving family. She prayed with every ounce of strength she had left, pleading with God to save her son. "Please, not him too," she whispered, over and over, through tears. While Landon's body lay in a coma, connected to machines, his spirit embarked on a journey few could imagine. Later, when he recovered, he described the experience with vivid clarity. He found himself in a place of overwhelming beauty, a realm that felt more real than anything he had ever known. Colors were brighter, sounds more harmonious, and an indescribable peace permeated everything. It was as if he had left the constraints of Earth behind and stepped into a higher dimension of existence. Landon recalled walking on streets made of gold, glowing with an inner light. The air itself seemed alive, filled with a presence of love and harmony. And then he realized he wasn't alone. Around him were figures bathed in soft, golden light. Some were unfamiliar, but their presence felt comforting. Others he recognized as family members who had passed away long before he was born. Among these figures were 2 small children who greeted him with warmth and familiarity. At first, Landon didn't understand who they were. It wasn't until later, when he shared his story, that Julie revealed the truth. These were his siblings, lost to miscarriages before Landon's birth. A secret the family had never spoken of, and yet here they were, welcoming him with open arms. Landon also recalled seeing a vast tapestry that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. Each thread glowed with a light of its own, yet all the threads were interwoven, forming a pattern of breathtaking complexity and beauty. He instinctively knew this tapestry represented all of creation, each thread a life or a moment, and every connection mattered. The realization left him in awe. Every action, no matter how small, ripples through eternity. This profound understanding gave him clarity on why he needed to return, to help others see their value and role in this divine design. And then, Landon encountered someone who stood apart from the others. A figure who radiated light so brilliant it seemed to envelop everything around him. It was Jesus. Landon recognized him immediately, though he had never seen him before. In the presence of Jesus, Landon felt a love so profound it seemed to dissolve every fear, every worry he had ever known. The air around him was warm and filled with a sense of peace that transcended anything he could have imagined. Time itself felt irrelevant, as though he were standing at the very heart of eternity. Landon later described it as a sensation of being fully seen and completely loved, as if every part of his existence, the good, the bad, and the unknown, was embraced without judgment. As Landon looked around, the splendor of heaven continued to unfold. The golden streets shimmered like they were alive, and the very air seemed to hum with the melody of a divine symphony. Every color was more vivid, every sensation heightened to an unimaginable degree. Jesus didn't speak with words, but his presence alone communicated truths that resonated deep within Landon's soul. He felt a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all life, how each person, each moment, was part of a grand divine design. It was like seeing the threads of a tapestry, Landon explained later. Every life mattered. Every moment mattered. Jesus then stood before Landon, radiating a light so brilliant it seemed to envelop everything around him. Landon recognized him immediately, though he had never seen him before. He didn't speak like we do, Landon later explained. It was like his words went straight into my heart. I didn't hear them. I felt them. Jesus told Landon it wasn't his time yet. You have a purpose to fulfill, he said, not with sound, but with a deep soul-stirring clarity. You need to share what you've seen. Let people know heaven is real. Help them understand that life doesn't end with death, and every person has a divine purpose. The message filled Landon with both peace and a sense of duty. Though he wanted desperately to remain in this place of love and light, he understood he had to return, to share this gift with the world. When Landon opened his eyes, the hospital room was quiet except for the steady beeping of monitors. Doctors and nurses rushed to his bedside, their expressions a mix of shock and relief. After everything his body had endured, he was not only alive, but fully coherent. Landon immediately began recounting his experience. He spoke of the golden streets, the glowing figures, and the overwhelming sense of peace. He described meeting his siblings, whom he couldn't have known about, and he shared the message Jesus had given him. Julie listened, tears streaming down her face. Her son's words were unlike anything she had ever heard, yet they carried a truth she couldn't deny. How could he know about the miscarriages? How could he describe heaven with such clarity? It was a moment that forever changed her faith. As Landon continued to speak, Julie noticed something else. His eyes sparkled with a wisdom far beyond his years. He talked not only of heaven's beauty, but also of its love, a love so encompassing and pure that it seemed to breathe life into his words. It's not just a place, Landon told her softly. It's a home. It's where we all belong. His words weren't just comforting. They reignited a spark of hope in Julie that she hadn't felt since Andy's passing. She began to wonder if this tragedy wasn't just an end, but also the beginning of something far greater than she could understand. One of the most remarkable stories to emerge from Landon's testimony came from a woman who had been struggling with the recent loss of her child. She approached Landon after one of his talks, tears streaming down her face. "Your story," she said, "brought me a peace I never thought I'd feel again." Landon listened as she shared how his description of heaven gave her a renewed sense of hope that her child was safe, loved, and waiting for her. It was moments like these that reaffirmed Landon's commitment to sharing his experience, knowing it could provide healing to others. As Landon recovered, his story began to spread. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers came to hear about his experience. Churches invited him to speak, and his testimony touched countless lives. People found comfort in his words, especially those who had lost loved ones. Landon's message was simple but profound. Heaven is real. Life continues beyond the grave, and we all have a divine purpose. Returning to life after experiencing heaven wasn't as easy as it might seem. Landon often found himself longing for the peace and beauty of that realm, especially during moments of earthly pain and frustration. "It felt like being pulled away from home," he once said. Yet, he reminded himself of the mission Jesus had given him. He leaned on his faith and the support of his mother, knowing that his story wasn't meant to be just his own. It was a gift to share with the world, even when the weight of that responsibility felt overwhelming. For Julie, Landon's recovery was both a miracle and a challenge. The loss of her husband weighed heavily on her, but Landon's story gave her hope. Over time, she began to find solace in the belief that Andy was in the very place Landon had described. In the years that followed, Landon often reflected on how fragile and precious life truly is. The memory of standing in that golden realm made him keenly aware of how much time we waste on fear, anger, and doubt. "We don't have to wait for heaven to start living with love and purpose," he would tell audiences. "It's something we can choose every day, right here, right now." His message wasn't just about the afterlife, but about transforming this life into something meaningful, guided by the light and love he had experienced beyond the veil. Landon's experience shaped the rest of his life. He dedicated himself to spreading the message he had been given. Speaking in churches, schools, and communities, he shared his story with humility and sincerity. His words resonated deeply, inspiring faith and hope in those who listened. Landon's journey is more than a story of survival. It's a testament to the power of love, faith, and the enduring hope that life continues beyond death. Whether you believe in the afterlife or are searching for answers, his experience challenges us to look beyond the physical world and consider the possibility of something greater. Landon's story is a reminder that we are never alone, that our lives have meaning, and that the love of heaven is closer than we think.